The City Council passed the fiscal year 2021 budget just before deadline with a 20-4 vote. Cuts were made to various departments due to the lack of revenues and change of plans for money once allocated. Here's more on what transpired. On June 23rd, City Council came to conclusions regarding rebudgeting measures, particularly involving the police force and school system. The Committee of the Whole of the City Council voted on the overall proposed Newton budget with revisions by the year for fiscal year 21, and it passed 17-5-2. Over the course of weeks and the pressures building up from the defund NPD groups, the administration withdrew $300,000 initially intended for 6 new police cruisers and restored Sunday library hours.
The mayor goes on to say, while I respectfully understand the intent of members of the council, I cannot accept this resolution. The killing of George Floyd and now Rayshard Brooks has brought to the surface the pain of generations of people of color facing racism and bias and unequal access to housing, jobs, education, and healthcare opportunities. I've been listening and have been hearing from so many. In recent weeks, I have heard a Black resident share her deep fear for her teenage son when he goes for a jog in Newton, another lamenting the achievement gap for our students of color, and yet another who feared for his life when stopped by Newton police close to his home. I've heard hundreds of Newtonians call for justice for every person in our city, regardless of the color of their skin. Our community prides itself on our core values of respect, diversity, and acceptance. We must live up to these words. I've heard the righteous anger of so many young people who are demanding change, starting with policing, but going further and deeper. Let me do my best to speak plainly about race and racism in our city in this difficult time. Let's all clearly say and admit that systemic racism and unconscious bias surrounds us in Newton. That systemic racism is threatening public health, economic opportunity, educational achievement, and the quality of daily life for people of color. That systemic racism requires systemic change. That systemic change will be difficult and uncomfortable, but is essential and urgent. That Black lives matter. Even during this coronavirus crisis and economic collapse, anti-racist work cannot wait because prejudice has not paused. While this problem is bigger than any of us, each of us must do our part to change our nation, especially with the vacuum of leadership in Washington, D.C. Here in Newton, we need to prove that it is more than a slogan that Black lives matter, that the lives of too many, including Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Rayshard Brooks, have to matter. As you know, I have already taken 3 very important steps. We have adopted the 8 can't wait reforms. The Newton Police Department reviewed its use of force policies and has updated them. Effective Monday, June 15th, the policy bans chokeholds and requires officers to intervene in instances of excessive force. Known as general orders, they are posted online, and we look forward to reviewing them with the Newton Coalition of Black Residents and others, and revising them more if warranted. Second, last week I announced that I am forming a Newton Police Reform Task Force. This group will undertake a holistic assessment of the department and make recommendations on the policies, procedures, practices, and overall strategic direction for Newton's policing effort. Its work should be based on an understanding through surveys, focus groups, or interviews of what people of color are experiencing in Newton. Areas that the task force will consider include, but are not limited to, recruiting, hiring, training and promoting, staffing levels and organization structure, misconduct and discipline, accountability, and oversight. I am working closely with the Coalition of Black Residents, Forge, the HRC, the City Council President, and others to have received more than 90 resumes from members of our community who would like to serve. I want the task force to begin meeting in the first week of July and report to me and the community every 6 weeks. Third, I have revised my proposed budget by moving $200,000 from the police cruiser line item in the police budget to the mayor's office consulting line for police study. These funds will allow the Newton Police Reform Task Force to have the option of hiring a facilitator or a consultant to further their work. As we embark on this reshaping of public safety, please know I am deeply grateful for the work of our police officers. Most grew up in Newton, and all of them love this community. Their commitment to community policing is deep. I am proud of them and their tradition of answering the call, even now in the midst of a contagious disease. The rank and file and the leadership of the Newton Police Department condemn the actions of Minneapolis police officers that killed George Floyd. I know there are people, especially our young people, demanding defunding the police. I have called for reimagining the police department, and we will see in the coming months what that study brings. We must decide first what we want to do and then budget accordingly. In the meantime, I am responsible, as is the Newton City Council, for ensuring the safety of our residents, our business people, and visitors. Arbitrarily cutting the force without data and without new solutions in place regarding which functions we may want to assign to other departments, and without a plan on how to do so, undermines our safety and the ability of the Newton Police Department to do its job. We, at this time, do not know what the proper number of sworn officers should be for the city of Newton in the future when we reimagine policing responsible for the unintended consequences that could result from the actions recommended by this resolution. Your Honorable Council even recognized the need for expertise in Budget Resolution Number 9, which was also submitted to me today. And I quote your words. Whereas most Newton citizens are well-meaning and knowledgeable, most are unlikely to have the specific expertise in policing methods and practices necessary to evaluate and make informed recommendations to the current structures and operations of the NPD. Together, we will be leaders. With the Newton Police Reform Task Force, we will consider important police reform. Rather than making indiscriminate cuts in personnel with no logic and no data, we will apply thoughtful judgment. We will think deeply, understand our shortcomings, embrace what is working in our police department, and there are so many good officers doing so much good work. And together, we will decide on even better ways to provide critical services. In the meantime, we must ensure that our 911 calls are answered. The 50-plus requests that come in per year for help are met, that officers are available to respond to an accident scene or to show up when a resident is concerned about their safety, that an older resident dealing with a cybercrime can be assisted. Together, we will make sure we are staffed this fiscal year to take care of the safety of the people of this city. I will not jeopardize our community. The City Council of Newton should not jeopardize our community either. Keeping Newton safe is essential. I ask you, the members of the Honorable City Council, to join me in enabling this task force to do its work. We must heal racial divisions, dismantle our own privately held biases, and ensure that Newton is truly an inclusive, welcoming community where people of all racial, ethnic, and cultural backgrounds can live and thrive, be safe and secure, feel welcome and be supported, so that we can forge a better Newton, not just for tomorrow, but for decades to come. I know these are high aspirations, but they are the right aspirations, ones that I know we share in Newton. Allow our members of our task force to do their work. Allow the members of our police department to keep us safe even as we reimagine the future of policing. I ask you to join me, for it is only by coming together, understanding the challenges facing our community, and acting that we will be able to move forward. Understanding that the
In favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
The Committee of the Whole of the City Council passed a motion to accept the mayor's change to reduce the Newton Police Department cruiser line by $200,000. That's $50,000 per cruiser to pay for the task force costs. This means that funds will be redistributed to police training and not to new cruisers. The committee also accepted the mayor's revised budget, moving this money to the executive office budget.
I don't want us to go backwards. We've already known that the numbers below 149, we're going to start paying overtime. I don't want to get into a position where we're going to be wasting $1 million on police officers that are going to be working double shifts compared to having a fresh officer there. I mean, just think of it yourself. Do you want a guy that's been there for 15 hours making decisions, or you want a guy that's just came on the ship? It's the way the police work should be done. They're going to be making sound decisions with the amount of rest that they need. And I think, I'll be honest with you, with this committee that they've formed, I think this is going to be a good thing that happens, because for the simple reason is we're going to see the police officers shouldn't be out there chasing people that don't shovel their sidewalks, shouldn't be chasing leaf blowers. That's just not police work.
16 voted in favor, 5 voted against, 3 abstained, including 1 recused for conflict of interest. Newton Police Chief announced his early retirement, and the mayor created and funded a task force to do a comprehensive review of public safety services in Newton to decide if we are delivering them in the best way and from the appropriate departments.
I'm going to ask us to be data-driven, and please, let's not just unilaterally cut something without thinking about it carefully.
I do think the mayor's letter was a thoughtful response. I respectfully disagree with some of my colleagues who think otherwise. I'm prepared to support the resolution, and I hope that we can move on and get this budget done tonight.
Councillor Auchincloss.
Aye.
Councillor Baker.
Aye.
Councillor Bowman.
No.
Councillor Ciccone.
I'm recused, Mr. Olson.
Councillor Crossley.
Aye.
Councillor Danberg.
Aye.
Councillor Downs.
Aye.
Councillor Gentile.
Aye.
The Parks, Recreation, and Culture Department still sees cuts of hundreds of thousands of dollars, which activists hope to pressure the administration to reverse or limit. Reporting from City Hall, I'm Katie Mulcairn with Newton News.